The blue and red lights danced across Maple Ridge Lake like broken fireworks, turning the whole dock into a stage nobody wanted to be on. It would have been a peaceful evening, the loons calling out, the water gold in the sun, my dog Copper sitting at my heel, watching it all like a little king. But tonight, the peace was just a memory, and the whole neighborhood was there, arms crossed, phones out, waiting for the kind of showdown you only read about in HOA newsletters. Except this time, the drama was real. Karen, president of the HOA and self-appointed sheriff, stood at the end of the dock in a peach blazer so bright it could guide ships, clutching her clipboard like it was a badge. "Officer, over here," she called, waving in the two patrol cars that had just rolled up, lights still spinning. "He refused to come to our mandatory meeting. He's causing trouble again. Let me back up a sec. My name's not important. Just know I'm the kind of neighbor who minds his business, keeps the grass neat, helps old Mr. Hargrove carry groceries, waves to Sarah and her boy Mason, and picks up trash around the boat ramp without being asked. You know, the boring kind of good. But in Maple Ridge, that's enough to get you in trouble. Tonight, all I wanted was a quiet paddle before the rain hit. But here I was, hands at my sides, crowd gathering, thunder rolling somewhere distant. Officer Miller, steady and mustached, asked me what was going on. I told him straight, I'm not going to any meeting that wasn't properly noticed. It's a rule, even if Karen acts like it's an insult. He thinks he's a lawyer, she scoffed, loud enough for every neighbor to hear. Now, you'd think this was just the usual HOA squabble. Too many rules, not enough common sense. But here's where things twist. When Miller asked me to go inside, I told him I wasn't looking to fight. I just wanted to show him something. I reached for my backpack and Karen's eyes went wild. He's pulling something out. Like I was about to go full action movie. But it was just paper. Heavy, stamped, official. The kind of paper that means more than any clipboard ever could. I handed the envelope over, and Miller's brow lifted just enough to let me know he was reading something he hadn't seen before. Then, just as I started to explain, the sky lit up with lightning and the wind yanked Karen's HOA sign right off its stake, flinging it into the lake like an omen. Her clipboard slipped, skittering across the dock. Officer Patel, younger and sharp-eyed, stepped in, hand on her radio. Hold on. Wait. And that's when the whole crowd fell silent, like the lake itself was listening. Now, to understand how I ended up on a dock with half the HOA, a storm bearing down, and two cops reading legal documents, you have to know how Maple Ridge works. This is a place where kindness is quiet, helping your neighbor fix a porch light, sitting with a wounded bird until the rescue folks show up, mowing the grass just so the mailman doesn't trip. But there's another side, flyers taped to mailboxes, fines for grass an inch too long, mandatory meetings announced at the last minute, the sort of order that feels more like pressure. Karen's been running this place like her personal fiefdom for years, doling out stickers for canoes, barking about bylaws, never missing a chance to remind you who's really in charge. But a few weeks ago, a letter showed up saying a property management company that owned a stack of lake lots, and the votes that come with them, was selling. Suddenly, the power behind all those rules was up for grabs. Long story short, after a lot of calls and number crunching, I ended up with the majority of those voting shares. No crown, no throne, just the real say in how things went around here. I kept it quiet, partly because the sale wasn't public yet, partly because kindness doesn't need a megaphone. But Karen caught wind, maybe from a whisper, maybe just from watching who didn't jump when she barked. When she called a mandatory meeting with no topic announced, then tried to force everyone inside, I decided I'd had enough of being bullied by a peach blazer. I waited at the dock, Copper at my side, the envelope in my bag. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just know when it's your moment to stand your ground. The police showed up. Karen made her pitch. He's refusing. He's a troublemaker. He's not one of us. But Miller asked for my side, and I gave it to him, calm and steady, never raising my voice. Told him about the notice, about the rules, about how public access to the ramp was part of the county's deal when they gave the HOA money. Showed him the documents, ownership, voting rights, covenants. Everything stamped, legal, clear as day. The wind kicked up, rain threatening, the whole crowd buzzing, some siding with Karen, some glancing at me like maybe, just maybe, the crazy rules were about to crack. Patel read the envelope carefully. Karen tried to push the cops into action, her voice getting sharper. Remove him. Fine him. Make him comply. But the officers weren't having it. Miller's voice cut through. He's allowed to stand here. This is public access. The tension peaked when Karen, desperate to keep control, lunged for the envelope. The wind caught the top page, flipping it into the water. Copper barked, startled, and in the chaos, Karen's foot slipped and she went off the dock, peach blazer and all. No time to think. I threw the envelope to the officers and Duff. The water was cold and mean, but I got to her, kept her face up, told her to kick. By the time we made it back to the dock, the storm was in full fury and the crowd was silent, watching as Sarah wrapped Karen in a towel, as Mr. Hargrove reached out a shaky hand to help me up. And for a second, just a second, I thought maybe that was it. Maybe kindness had finally broken through the storm. But you know neighborhoods, peace never lasts long. The board tried to push a vote without me, tried to find me again, tried to lock down the dock. Then a new twist. Someone ran out of the clubhouse screaming. The safe was empty. The voting records were destroyed. In the chaos, someone spotted a shadow slipping away in the rain, carrying something big. Elliot, the board's loudest voice after Karen, started pointing fingers at me, at anyone who'd ever asked a hard question. Neighbors shouted back. Accusations flew. Officer Miller tried to keep order, Patel clutching the soggy envelope, telling everyone, "This isn't over. No votes tonight. No fines. No one leaves until we sort this." And just as people started to settle, just as I started to think the storm might pass, Copper barked and I saw that shadow again. I told the officers, and they sprinted into the trees. The crowd, half scared, half angry, waited breathless. And when the officers returned, it was Elliot they dragged out, muddy, clutching a duffel so stuffed with cash that bills dripped onto the dock. Karen collapsed on the bench, sobbing, her towel clutched like armor. "He told me we had to move the money," she cried. "He said it was the only way to save the community." But nobody was buying it anymore. Officer Patel read the documents, turned to me, and said what nobody wanted to admit. "You're the majority owner of Maple Ridge now. The county will have to sort this out, but the days of fines and threats are over." That moment, the air sharp, the lake calm, neighbors shivering together, not from fear but from the relief of truth, was the real climax. Elliot in cuffs, Karen broken, the crowd turning not on me, but on the people who'd used rules like weapons for years. But the ending? Oh, the ending's never that simple. As the patrol cars pulled away and the storm faded, as the neighbors hugged and the lake grew still again, I saw Karen staring at the water, shattered but maybe ready to rebuild. Some folks will always want a rule book. Others just want to fish in peace. Maple Ridge wasn't fixed overnight. There'd be county meetings, lawsuits maybe, certainly a lot of angry emails. But for the first time, I felt like this place could become what it was supposed to be. Neighbors, not numbers, kindness over control. Yeah, that happened. And maybe you're wondering where you'd stand on a night like that. Would you back the blazer or the quiet guy fixing porch lights? Would you follow the rules even when they break people, or break the rules to save your neighbor? Go ahead, tell me. Where are you watching from? And what would you have done? Because in the end, every lake has its storm, but it's how we weather it together that decides what kind of place it'll be tomorrow. And if you've ever had an HOA horror story or a neighbor who saved your day, drop your story below. Do you think justice was served, or is there still unfinished business at Maple Ridge? Let's hear it.